What's going on, Bellflower? Gwen the Recovering Witch here, also known as Jen. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to episode 2 of Mindful Recovery Mondays. If you are new, I welcome you and thank you for clicking on this video. And if you are a returning subscriber, I really appreciate the support and you following along on this journey with me. If you are new, Mindful Recovery Mondays is a new segment that I started this year, where I cover sobriety, recovery related topics, as I've been sober for a little over 3 years and I am working a 12-step recovery program. I just want to say that I am no expert. I am just an alcoholic who stopped drinking through the 12 steps, and I'm learning how to maneuver my practice as a witch, as I've been a pagan witch for a year, and learning how to combine the two. So if that does interest you, I would appreciate the support if you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell for videos that I upload, and you get the notifications as soon as they're uploaded. And please be sure to leave a comment, because I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that like button after this video if you did like it. And also remember, sharing is caring. Okay. So as promised last week for episode 2, I did discuss that I will be going over the 12 steps out of the Pagan and Recovery book that's been written by Dierdre Anne Hebert. And this is what the book looks like. Upside down. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to be covering step 1, but before I cover step 1, I thought it was very pertinent to talk about the foreword and the introduction. When I walked into the rooms of AA first, and I got my sponsor, we made sure to read the forewords and anything else prior, which included Bill's story and also the doctor's opinion. And really the forewords were very important as far as gaining the history of where the program came from. And I wanted to make sure that I did the book justice and read the foreword and the introduction, because those are just as important. So Hebert's goal with writing this book, it was as far as giving support for pagan participation. And this could be applied to any 12-step program. Last week's video, I talked about how there was many different branch offs as far as you have Codependent Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, you have Al-Anon, any type of different branch offs, but they continuously use the 12 steps as their guide. So she really wanted to bridge the gap for those not wanting to follow the Christian base, because the AA book is very heavily written as far as a Christian following, but again, really relaying the message that the 12 steps can work for anybody, regardless what your religious path is, and it should be all inclusive. I know I said religious path and I didn't mean to say it like that, but whatever your spiritual path is or your belief systems are, it's really inclusive for anyone, whatever your belief system is. So I appreciated the fact that in the beginning of the foreword, she stated that this book material is to be used with conjunction with any program, and it's not to compete or replace or trump any other program. This is just another tool that you can use as a guide. She did give a background about herself in regards to her spiritual belief system, that she's been Wiccan for many years. She has some knowledge, learning, formal and informal, in regards to paganism. And again, she did establish the fact that the way that she wrote the book, she was trying to keep it all inclusive and not following just one particular path. She wanted to try to make it seem very open for those who are on any path, not to kind of help better understand, but also really again just to kind of keep it open. So I do kind of like the fact how she really orchestrated that way, if my explanation makes sense. So basically that was pretty much as part of the foreword about how it came to be. Again, it is important to know that she has been in a 12-step program because she knows how this works. But really just explaining what the book is about, what she's trying to achieve, and I think she did that very well. Then we have the introduction, and in the part of the introduction, the very first paragraph says, "At the beginning, let me be clear, this book is not about an easy way to break the cycle of addiction. There is no simple spell which one can recite which will render one cured from an addiction to alcohol, smoking, or any other substance or habit that has taken over our lives. It's something continuously that we have to work on and look at, and I need to stop saying we." I'm saying we as whoever is a part of the program, but I really need to work on stop saying that. When I read in Alcoholics Anonymous about, she does touch just on this little paragraph that in regards to Alcoholics Anonymous, that we get worse, never better. It's this disease that I have, it is an illness, and it's an illness that I know exists, and I can't be cured from it. But the only cure that I do have is working a program that keeps my illness at bay. So I like how she kind of explains on this of explaining about like an infection or some sort of illness. In order to treat it, I have to take the steps to ensure that the disease doesn't spread. She referenced Aleister Crowley, stating that magic is the art and science of causing change in conformity with will, and that the 12 steps is magic of the highest order because it is able to effect change in our very wills, enabling us to regain mastery of them, rather than having them blown and tossed by the whims and caprice of our environments and those around us. Crowley further stated that every intentional act is a magical act. The 12 steps gives us back our own intention, that part of ourself which wittingly or unwillingly we had abandoned. When I read this, the word that came up for me was sovereignty, and I really felt very connected to that. Working with my goddess, as y'all know, as you go through this journey, I will be talking about her a lot. And that's what it was. It was something that I knew that I didn't feel whole, and I felt like I was lacking. And the longer that I stayed and I was able to get here where we are in the present moment, I'm learning that it's reclaiming my sense of power, that sense of self back. She also talks about in regards to this being a spiritual program, she says that the heart of the 12 steps is a spiritual program that permits the individual, indeed requires the individual, to develop a deeper connection to deity, to God as we understand him. And then further down, she says that Christianity views the world as separate from God, a mere creation of God. It views God as a single being who is distant from us, unknowable and incomprehensible. Paganism views deity as deeply connected to the world, beings who can be approached by the layperson without the intervention of a special priestly class. In paganism, we can all be in direct communication with our deity. And I do have to say from personal experience that, yeah, I really viewed as God separate from the world. And with my past background beliefs, religious teachings, there was not like a face that I could put onto it, or even some sort of voice that I really felt so far removed from. And I felt a closeness when I heard her voice, and not knowing who she was. And the more that I learn about her, I feel more of that connection, and that really does help. Later on in the intro, she does talk about that The reader will begin to recognize that anyone who is willing to look beyond the language of the original 12 steps can bridge the gap of culture and language and can achieve freedom from addiction and compulsive behavior. So again, I think the way she wrote this out, it was beautifully written. I know I kind of I pulled bits and pieces out of the book, but she does touch very well in a very quick way about what her mission was with this book, removing what we understand as God out of the way and really sticking with the context of the 12 steps and applying it to what makes us feel comfortable, or what makes me feel comfortable. I'm working on it, y'all. I do appreciate how she said that this was the mission, was to bridge the gap. So again, not putting it for just a exclusive group, but making it all inclusive for anyone in general. She does go on later on talking about that maybe that the 12 steps we would hope in a perfect world, maybe the 12 steps would work for everyone. I had even read articles. There had been one that came out recently, and there was also a time, even when I'd share in a meeting room, that I wished everyone would work the 12 steps. She does cover that in here also. And there's going to be times where it's not for everybody. And she does point out to the fact that for those that the 12 step works for, we had to hit some sort of bottom for us. Like we were desperate for something. And I know she put in there the addict, the alcoholic, and the compulsive are desperate, meaning that we really were looking for some type of change. It kind of rubbed me off the wrong way about being desperate. As far as going further into the steps, it talks about ego, and I never want to come off as weak, and it's not what it means. And it's basically how I just need to switch my way of thinking. But I was really seeking something, and I got it out of the 12 steps. It brought me faith in myself again, faith in something that was bigger than me, and working with something bigger than me that helped me regain some of myself back as well. Then we go into the 12 steps portion, and she says that the 12 steps accomplish a number of goals that are important to any pagan practitioner. She starts off with one saying that they are a system for gaining or increasing self-knowledge. I can totally identify that as a witch. We're always learning and seeking the knowledge, and forever learning to be forever learning as the student. And also at the same time, we can play the role as a teacher. But we also have to examine ourselves in the process. So she states, those who do not engage in a process of self-examination will never learn from their mistakes. She also does talk about it permits us to look ahead when making a decision, and with some accuracy to determine if that action is indeed worth the consequences. It helps us understand our reasons, our motives, our true and highest will. So there's that one for the first point. So the second main point she wanted to make is that these are a code of conduct, and really it's basically us just taking responsibility, and regardless what the consequences may be. And so I do resonate with a code of conduct. And I know it sounds like common sense, but like knowing the difference between right and wrong. Then 3, they teach us that with faith, we're far stronger than we would be without it. I know when I work a spell, I do call on my deity or any other higher power entity that I'm working with. It's still calling in a power and channeling it, and again kind of goes back into the code of conduct of a higher being guiding me as to the working that I need to do. Then also, they teach us that helping others is paramount to our survival. And I have to say, within the last several days, but this has been something that's been progressing for about a month, maybe more than a month. This community, especially since we have been more so online, trying to connect, I think more so now we have connected more with people that are not even close by locally, but we've met each other in different states, maybe in different countries. And I have been doing these videos, and I kind of feel like not only was it helping me as far as my journey, but at the same time, there are subscribers here that have been looking for some sort of connection as well. The more that we tell our stories, it is very paramount to our survival. And I was talking to one of my sisters who also shares the same mother, and she had pointed out to me yesterday in a conversation that she is using you as to be of service. And I didn't think about that, and I have seen comments from people who are in recovery, and they've told me thank you for being of service. And if that is how my goddess wants to use me for, then I'm going to continue to keep posting these videos. And it is about helping people, that sense of desperation. And for me, every time I continue to relive what it was like in the beginning before sobriety, and retelling my story, if that helps anyone else, then that's what I am going to continue to do. Because I do like how sobriety feels. I do like the way how it does make me feel like I've gained some sort of sanity back, and it does help with serving a higher purpose. Now, I think we can move on to step 1. She does also explain that in the book, many pagans are used to performing acts of magic. The 12 steps are something of an alchemical program, a work designed to transform our very lives. With any magical work, energy must be raised and directed. The practitioner must be fearless, diligent, steadfast, dedicated to the work. And again, we did talk about that a little bit, where it's, when you're performing a working or a spell, there might be times where you have to dedicate a little more energy as far as how many days you might have to work on it. It's not going to be a one and done deal. So that does make sense, and it does resonate with me as far as my practice as well. And again, I really like how she just touched the basis, I think, in all of it, really. When we get to step 1, step 1 is admitted that we were powerless and that our lives had become unmanageable. She talks about the reason for admitting the powerlessness. The reason for all of this, for admitting powerlessness and a lack of control, for hitting our bottom, and for admitting defeat, is simply because unless we do these things, we have no need for recovery. And I think that is so true. How can it be that the power of deity resides within us, yet we still remain powerless? And she says the truth is, though, that this is only an apparent paradox. We are powerless, not because we are without power or ability, but because we have lost the means to put the power within us to use. In us, the power remains, but it is unsuitable because we have wittingly or not abandoned the ability to access or utilize that power. Deity has not abandoned us. We've simply lost touch with the divine within us. And again, I found this so profound, that it was never the fact of me losing such a thing of a part of myself. It was just the further I walked away, I couldn't see it anymore. or see myself anymore. And then finally, when I'm ready and I don't know what steps to take, of course I'm going to feel powerless. And coming to realize that, hey, it's been there all along. I just needed to admit that I needed some help. I've heard in the meeting rooms as well, it's like, in sometimes feeling powerless, when you admit that you are powerless and you tell someone and ask for help, that is regaining a little bit of your power back. It's not going into submission and being defeated. Sometimes asking for that help is reclaiming and being willing and saying, hey, I'm asking for the help, and that's stepping into the power and identifying it. He talks about the disease again being like an infection, and so I know I have to really basically work on this disease that I proclaimed myself to have, because I was drinking a lot and I couldn't get it to be stopped. She talks about the word freedom. That was a big one. Into the unmanageable part. I thought maybe when I was drinking and getting that sense of kind of like that relaxedness, that calm, that was a freedom for me of feeling a certain way. But the more that I felt chained to alcohol, it was really becoming more unmanageable, because I didn't know when to quit, to be honest with you. I appreciated the fact that she even had a list of questions, and here are the list of questions. Question 1. Have you ever put someone's life in danger because you were using substances? Think before you answer the question. Have you ever got behind the wheel of a car knowing you were buzzed or high? Yes. Have you ever placed your employment or education in jeopardy because of your use of substance abuse? Yes. Have you ever endangered your relationship just because of your use of substances? Yes. Have others been concerned about your use of substances and brought it to your attention? Hell yes. Have you ever endangered your own health with substance abuse? Yes. Have you ever found yourself in situations you would not have placed yourself in and had you been sober? Yes. Have you ever blacked out when using substances, lost time, found yourself walking into strange places, had people tell you things you were involved in but had no recollection of doing so? Yes. Have you found yourself unable to resist just one more? Yes. Have you found yourself using more than you intended? Yes. Has your use of substance interfered with your ability to meet your financial obligations? Yes. Have you missed important family, social, or work events because of your substance abuse? I'm going to say yes and no. Most likely yes. And have you ever lost a place to live as a result of your substance use? No. That was the only one that I could honestly say no to. But I really do like how she listed out those questions. It made me think back to the big book about, in the chapter more about alcoholism, the countless attempts that we have tried. I was the person who would say, I will only drink hard liquor during the weekends. Maybe I'll drink wine during the week, or just have a beer. I will have one glass of wine, but then it ends up being the whole bottle of wine or 2 bottles of wine. She does state in the book that this does not mean that you are an alcoholic or an addict, but it is worth checking out. And the big book talks about that too. It's that the only person who can diagnose you as an alcoholic is yourself.